Coming up on Extended Play, we go to the California Extreme Arcade Show to check out the state of arcade gaming. We turn down the lights and turn up the fright for Silent Hill 2. Does it live up to the reputation of the original? And we hit the gridiron for some Madden 2002 tips. Stick around, it's game time.
Hello and welcome to Extended Play from Metreon in San Francisco. I'm Kate Patello.
And I'm Adam Sessler. Now, video games have been dominating the home for many, many years. But it's important to remember that once upon a time, it all started in the arcade.
Sadly, though, the arcade seems to have lost a lot of its innovation and excitement. However, there's a group of people out there determined to keep us in touch with our gaming heritage.
Arcade.
Arcade.
Back in the 80s, arcades used to be a lot like this. Crowds of players gathered around rows and rows of machines, all different. Well, most arcades now look more like ghost towns than the lifeblood of a burgeoning entertainment industry. What happened? Extended Play paid a visit to the annual California Extreme Classic Arcade Show to get some answers.
One of my old times favourites is a game called Mr. Doe's Castle. And it's one of the games that can rack up nearly 1 million points on.
Missile Command, one of my all-time favorites.
Fast, furious, vertical shoot-em-ups. Something that gets the blood pumping and gets a sweat on the brow.
Asteroids, Defender was lots of fun. I remember dumping quarter after quarter after quarter on that game.
SingStar is a really hard game, but it's really fun to get into.
Run, coward.
I'll put in a plug for my all-time favorite game, which is called Mappy. It's a little police mouse running around, jumping on trampolines and picking up items before the cats can steal them.
These guys are seriously old school. So why don't they hang around the arcades anymore?
The home console market and PCs have just killed the whole thing off.
Some of the new games that have come out, they tend to be pretty complicated, and you find that you've blown $15 before you just figure out what the basics of the game are.
The late 80s, early 90s, there was sort of a consolidation of the types of games that people produce. You know, the driving game or the fighting game or the dancing games now.
The operators have been getting a really tough deal in having games that they paid a lot of money for come out on home consoles, 3 months later, and they're not recovering the money that they put into it.
But why bother messing around with these antiques to begin with?
Part of it is wanting to preserve history, and it's very, very sad to see the history of what a lot of what we grew up with be destroyed or be thrown in a landfill.
I think that the nostalgia factor, bringing back those fond memories of racing home after school on our Schwinn bicycles, dropping them in the street in front of the 7-Eleven and popping into play. It's warm, fond memories. People like it.
Okay, so there's renewed interest. But how do you get these old games back into the arcades where people can enjoy them? Friends, meet the Ultracade, a new arcade machine capable of playing any one of almost 100 classic games.
What we've done is collected licenses from all the classic arcade game publishers, and we're bringing some of the games back from as late as the late 70s through the 80s into the early 90s. There's lots of young kids that just flat out weren't born when these games were out, so these are new games to them. And then there, like I said, the parents, the adults, who remember fondly playing these back when they were kids. So it appeals to a real wide range of ages.
So there you have it. The answer to getting families back into the arcades and playing together just might be embracing new titles while saving a place or two for those enduring classics. Donkey Kong, anyone?
If you're interested in getting an arcade cabinet of your own, come by the Extended Play website and we'll provide you with some links. And now back to the current state of gaming with some news.
Running contrary to expectations, Sony will not cut the cost of the PS2 in the US this year. After reducing the console's price in Europe and Australia, Sony announced no such similar reduction in North America. This comes after predictions of fewer Xbox launch titles and confirmation of strong PS2 titles to be released in time for the Christmas season. Retailers want more GameCubes. Following expectations that Microsoft won't meet their projected Xbox launch numbers, many stores like Walmart are asking Nintendo to provide more GameCubes. This time, Nintendo just can't make them any faster. Coming up on Extended Play, we take to the ice and try to keep our teeth with NHL 2002. And we hit the slopes with Arctic Thunder. Is it SSX on snowmobiles or just another freezing flop?
Welcome back to Extended Play.
When it comes to sports games, ice hockey has always proven to be one of the most fast-paced, easy-to-play, and satisfying games since the first title hit the NES.
Since then, EA's contributions have topped the list, and this year is no exception.
Few games can be called classics, but NHL 2002 solidifies what is quickly becoming EA Sports' strongest year and is arguably the best console hockey game ever released. The game has considerable depth, tracking player statistics in 18 categories and team statistics in 21. It also allows you to manage various aspects of your team, like trading and drafting players. Like most other EA Sports titles, you can also create your own players and teams and highly customize their statistics and appearance. We'll give this guy a little goatee and big lips. Sometimes it's best just to leave appearances alone. The gameplay itself has been noticeably improved, fine-tuning last year's choppy frame rates and oftentimes easy AI. Passing's been tweaked, allowing greater flexibility in moving the puck up and down the ice. In terms of graphics, this year's edition is top-notch. NHL 2002 uses the same basic engine from last year's version, but the animations have been improved, featuring little in the way of choppiness and jagged edges.
Saved by Hedberg!
The game's sound is a wonderful complement to the on-screen action, and EA Sports once again delivered an authentic-sounding game. The play-by-play and commentary by Jim Hewson and Don Taylor can sometimes even be funny.
He went up high like a blue-collar roofer.
It's hard to imagine a better version of video game hockey than NHL 2002. Once again, EA Sports has built upon their past success, resulting in their strongest release yet.
Stillman scores!
We give it a 5 out of 5.
And remember, the Bare Naked Ladies are available to play in NHL 2002. That's a band. Now, moving from an attempt to recreate an actual winter sport to a game that takes snowmobile racing and places it somewhere in the netherworld between SSX and Wipeout XL. It's Midway's Arctic Thunder.
Throughout the history of video games, there have been many titles set in the snow, but very few try anything new. Enter Arctic Thunder.
The race is on.
A combination of Twisted Metal Black and SSX. Vehicle of choice, snowmobile. Born as an arcade game, Arctic Thunder's transition to the PlayStation 2 is smooth and even better than the original. The home version features over a dozen courses, 19 characters, and 4 new modes to choose from, including multiplayer. The courses are a nice mix of realism and whimsy, including everything from a lost Himalayan city to a haunted forest or even Chernobyl. During the race, you can earn points for performing tricks. The game also features power-ups used to combat the other riders, so you can fire snowballs, throw up a shield, or become invisible. Arctic Thunder looks good, even though it isn't quite up to the standards set by most PS2 games of a similar nature. If you're a fan of arcade-style games, Arctic Thunder is definitely worth checking out. We give it a 4 out of 5.
If you don't feel like running out and getting Arctic Thunder for your console, make sure you try it out in the arcade if you can find it, because it is a lot of fun. Speaking of racing experiences that most of us won't have, Insane is a 4x4 off-road racer. Now, if 4x4 makes you feel like you got hit with a 2x4, cheat.
Driving has always been a way to escape our troubles. We have codes for Insane on the PC that makes driving fantastic. At the main menu, first type Code. Now you can type the following cheats. I need more maps for all tracks. Bigfoots for fat wheels. Men on the moon to float like a butterfly. And finally, the granddaddy of all codes, Big Heads for enormous nostrils.
Coming up on Extended Play, it's creepy, spooky, and downright evil. But is Silent Hill 2 a good game? And we talk to Capcom about the latest jewel in their crown, the hotly anticipated Devil May Cry.
Welcome back to Extended Play.
You know, the onset of fall doesn't just bring dead leaves with it, also brings some of the most desired games of the year.
Now, this next title sits high atop that list. It's pretty, it's scary, and it's here. Silent Hill 2.
Watch your back. It's time to turn the lights off and experience the terror of Silent Hill 2. Meet James. He's visiting town in search of his wife. Trouble is, she's been dead 3 years.
But I got a letter from her. She says she was waiting.
And that's just the start of a tale that chronicles James' struggle with his inner demons and the strange people he encounters along the way. Control is a bit sluggish, but combat is simple after a bit of practice. James can defeat enemies with firearms, or he can beat them into submission with a variety of blunt instruments. No horror title would be complete without puzzles. A riddle difficulty option lets you choose your brain teaser level, and a memo feature catalogs all the clues you come across. The attention to graphical detail is outrageous. Silent Hill's trademark fog keeps things tense, and the grainy overlay that is seen throughout the game is a potently artistic touch. Just as effective as the game's audio, which ranges from eerie radio static to the downright bizarre.
Hey there, everybody! Thanks for tuning in.
Silent Hill 2 is one of the most immersive video game experiences ever. Seldom has sound, vision, and control worked in such perfect harmony. Even with the lights on, you might jump at a few shadows anyway.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? I've never been so scared in my whole life.
Extended Play gives Silent Hill 2 a solid 5 out of 5.
Don't worry, I'm not crazy. At least, I don't think so.
You may wonder if you should play the first Silent Hill all the way through before picking up the sequel. Well, the stories are pretty disconnected, but there are revelations about the first title in the sequel, so it's up to you. Now, space sims like Wing Commander were really popular on the PC, and although their popularity has waned, their quality has not. So here's a look at Independence War 2: Edge of Chaos.
They came, just like they came to every frontier mankind has ever had.
Let's hope Independence War 2: The Edge of Chaos marks a resurgence in space combat sims, because this game is fun. First, let's dispense with the plot. You're a fella with a big chip on his shoulder who takes over his late grandma's secret pirate base in order to gather enough resources and support to launch your own personal vendetta on the evil corporate villain who killed your father 15 years ago. No! Got it? Good. Now, what you have left is an engaging space combat sim that loads on the complexity one would expect in the genre, yet makes the concept of semi-realistic space flight easy to understand and pull off. Credit for this should go to the controls that allow almost all of the game functions to be accessed from a standard flight stick. Another welcome addition is computer-assisted flight. After selecting location to travel to from the map, simply engage autopilot and bam, you're there. This allows you to concentrate on the meat and potatoes of this game, which is namely plundering freight vessels for cargo.
Okay, we give up. Take the cargo.
And taking on missions that will forward the plot. While the story itself is straightforward, much of your time will be spent trying to keep your pirate operation going, adding a nice touch of non-linearity. It's the combination of graphics, elegant controls, and gameplay reminiscent of Privateer that gives Independence Wars 2 a nice, solid 4 out of 5.
In most space sims, it's easy to be overwhelmed by all the technical aspects, like Newtonian physics. But in the case of Independence War 2, it's easy to get into and fun to play. Now, our next game is another hot fall PS2 title. It's Devil May Cry. It comes from Shinji Mikami, who's the man that gave us Resident Evil. But while those games are all about fear, this one has a whole different emphasis.
Let's rock, baby.
The concept of the game is to be cool, and for the player to be as narcissistic as possible while playing it.
Not bad criteria at all, and from the looks of it, Devil May Cry is living up to Shinji Mikami's aspirations. To shed more light on the game and its coolness, we checked in with Capcom themselves.
The best way to describe the game is a gothic thriller. Everyone's well dressed, all the areas are very clean, and a lot of visual detail. I guess the best word is cool.
All right, it's cool. Playing Dante, the half-demon, half-man armed with a big sword and guns, is cool. But it's through his arsenal of moves that he expresses his inner tough guy. Yep, that's cool.
Whoa, slow down, babe.
As you get further along in the game, it will become more of a combo system. He garners new moves as you go through the game. In order to beat the game, you'll have to be good at controlling the character and executing combos.
What clearly sets the game apart from a Resident Evil is you don't move like a tank, and you move fast.
And they had to have the character running at 60 frames per second.
But with all that action packed in with real-time backgrounds and free movement, there's reason to worry that the camera might miss Dante doling out his anti-monster herding.
They've done a lot of studying of film editing and how cameras come into play. So what you'll see is he pulls the camera back at appropriate times. The camera angles shift. They spent a good chunk of the team just focused on how can you make these cameras interact well. This has got to look like a Hollywood film.
Now, we've seen games that make you cool like out of a film before. What sets this apart?
The game makers are rating you as you go through, so if you execute a really good combo, they'll tell you you're cool. If it was boring and you just did a sword swipe or one gunshot, he's gonna call you dull.
So it's like a bloodthirsty version of Dance Dance Revolution.
I would actually not really call it a bloodthirsty version of Dance Dance Revolution. I would call it I'd call it Devil May Cry.
Cool. Coming up on Extended Play, Kate puts down the controller to practice her karate chop with the latest Thrustmaster gear for fighting games. And we help you sack the quarterback with our Madden 2002 strategy guide.
Welcome back to Extended Play.
Now, there's some games, especially fighting games, that make you just want to get up off the couch and into the action yourself.
You get too into it, Tiger, you might get hurt. But now there's a device out there that lets you do the unthinkable in a game. Work up a sweat.
Here we go!
Dance Dance Revolution started a revolution with controllers. Now, a lot of developers are trying to apply that technology to other types of games. So, what else can you do with a Dance Dance pad? This is the Thrustmaster Fighting Arena, or as we at Extended Play like to call it, the Fight pad. Lay the mat out flat, then attach the poles and adjust them to whatever would be your punching height. Plug it into your PlayStation with any fighting or boxing game, and then
kick, punch, jump, and block.
The sensors work really well and are sensitive enough, and theoretically, if you did this long enough, you could work up quite a sweat. Now the problem is, though, that all the directional buttons are at your feet, and in a fighting game, you need to do combos. So if you're trying to do an uppercut, that's like down, around, sweep, and a punch. That's an awful lot of work. Then there's the obvious drawback, which is that it all looks very cool when in use by a professional kickboxer. The rest of us are almost guaranteed to look like dorks. Okay, all in all, I'd say that the Thrustmaster Fighting Arena works, but you're better off using a standard controller for a fighting game. Save the Dance Dance pads for the dance dancing.
That's it for today.
Well, football season is here, which means football video games are here, which means in many living rooms, someone is winning and someone is agonizing in defeat. That's no fun, so here's some pointers. Madden Football 2002. Some claim its realistic gameplay is so realistic that it mirrors real-life NFL verbatim. Unfortunately, real-life NFL football is pretty complicated. That's why Extended Play headed to the Prep Gridiron and got football tips from some top-rated prep football coaches and players.
All right, my name is Russ Robb. I'm the head football coach at Piedmont High School.
Hey, let's go!
And we're going to give you some tips on how to beat Madden 2002. The key to having success in Madden 2002 is number one, knowing which team to pick. I think I'd have to choose the Oakland Raiders offensive playbook and players. Raiders! Raiders! Just for the fact that they got some solid guys and a solid playbook. Offensively, I recommend you kind of switch it up a little bit. They go from shotgun to an I back to a single back, and the more you can switch it up to see what the defense you're going against, I think the better off you'll be.
My tip is use the pump fake on the post corner routes because the secondary always bites and you get long gains.
After you snap the ball, you wait in the pocket for a second, and then you bring down the ball, right? But you got to wait in the pocket for a second before you scramble, and then you can scramble outside the pocket with the quarterback.
Picking a defense is down and distance, what they need to get and what's their strong suit. So if they're a big running attack, they're going to go with something with more linebackers and to stop the run. If there's somebody like the Rams that can spread you out a little bit more with more passing capabilities, you want to go something more like a 3-4, something like that, where you can play the pass and still stop their draws and some dives and stuff like that. Another one's a 4-4, where now you're committing pretty much everybody. You're going to be blitzing quite a bit and really stopping the run up the middle. So up to the outside, you get the linemen just penetrating and causing havoc.
This is Coach Humphreys. I'm the Frosh coach, and my tip is have just a very few plays, but run them and run them and run them until you can run them right against a lot of different fronts.
And my tip for you today is be the Falcons, run around with Michael Vick, and pass to Alex Crumpler, the tight end. Because the tight end is always open and he'll win you the game. He's my dog, Alex Crumpler.
And trade your aging veterans for high draft picks. And whatever you can do, get the high draft picks. And I swear you'll win.
Hopefully the next advancement for sports games will be the ability to download real-time stats of your players during the season.
Now, there may be improvements for other games you want, like, I don't know, Orange Oryx, ballerina shoes, whatever. Drop us a line, let us know.
And that's about it for this week, but next week we're going to have a preview of Shenmue 2 and a review of Sony's buzz-making Ico.
Ico?
We'll know next week.
Yeah, okay.
So until next time,
Game over.
When it comes to sports games, ice hockey has always proven to be one of the fastest.
That too. Hi, welcome back. That's me too. Ow, ow, ow. I played on beginner level and got all A's. Wow.
The only thing that scares me is my future.